Welcome to the Clangers Pod. This is where three old road testers and serial crap car collectors witter on about cars from the late 1990s and early 2000s, the models which are stuck between being classics and bangers. They are the Clangers. I'm Tom Barnard.
I'm Mike Askew.
And I'm Craig Cheetham.
A quick recap in case you haven't listened to any of the first episodes. We all worked together on a magazine called Auto Express in the late 90s and early 2000s, which means we drove pretty much everything that came to the market during that period. And as a result, we have plenty of stories to tell.
So this week we're going posh, and I'm talking about my favourite car in the world ever, and a BMW made by a Bangle, but I don't mean Susanna Hoffs. And shockingly, Craig only owns one of these. I think. Have you got a 7 Series, Craig? Have you just checked through your pile of registration documents and have a look to make sure you haven't got one hidden in the back of the sofa somewhere?
Well, I wouldn't want to disappoint. So I do actually own a 7 Series, but not this generation that we're talking about. I've got an E38, which is a far more handsome car, but we'll come to that in a moment.
Exactly. Save, as we say every week, save it for the pod, Craig. But we're going to start this week, as we start every week, by finding out what Craig has bought or sold this week.
What's Craig bought this week so far?
I have bought a Mini R50.
Another
Well,
one.
two, actually, because I was in the charity shop the other day. Anyone who's watching, bothering to watch on YouTube, this one was a fiver. It's for anyone who's not watching, it's a 1/36 scale Corgi model with the new Mini written on it, and it's the same colour as the one that I've bought, which is yellow. So based on our conversation in the last pod, that puts my yellow car count up to 7.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll try and remember all of them this time round.
Now, we might be noticing a bit of a pattern here, Craig, that whenever we talk about a car on the pod, you buy one. Is this kind of some...
£500? So what I think we ought to do, because obviously after we'd done the X-Type, the very same week I was offered an X-Type estate for £500. Then we did the pod and I was offered a bright yellow Mini R50 for £500. So I think maybe next week we should talk about the Bentley Arnage, see if I get lucky.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a classic clanger. Yeah, I'm sure.
If you want to see the yellow Mini that I have bought, it will be visible on the Clangers Facebook page and also on our Instagram.
Excellent. Yes.
And if you go there now, you'll see the Peugeot 309 that I spoke about last time.
So how is your Mini? Is it nice? Does it work?
It works. It makes a horrible noise from the steering, but they all do, so I'm not worried about that. It drives absolutely fine. It's got a slightly irritating bonnet release in that you have to close the bonnet 4 or 5 times to get it to latch, so that's a little job to sort out. But actually, it's quite a tidy little thing, and it's a great colour. It's that the bright yellow that they came in, the Dakar yellow or liquid yellow they called it, which really suits it. And it's riding on sort of later style Cooper S wheels, which I'm not entirely sure it's my taste because they make the ride a bit bumpy.
I think they look a bit wrong. I think you need to swap them for the same ones as your Corgi model, which are those kind of telephone dial ones, which are much more attractive and will probably make it ride much better too. So you can probably take off the 17s, flog those for a couple of £100, and then buy some smaller wheels from eBay or something for £100, and then it will only cost you £400, and you'll have a better riding car.
That's not a bad idea, is it? Either that or I find a young Mini owner who wants to put some stupidly big wheels on their car and say, should we just meet up in a car park with a tyre wrench and swap?
Yeah, that could work. Hasn't it got some silly stickers on it, though? Hasn't it got like the decals of like a demon looking out of behind a curtain and stuff? Have they come off yet?
I think you might have imagined that. You might have had a really bad dream.
Has it not got a splat or something on the back? I'm sure it has.
There's no demons, Tom. I think we've
Oh,
probably on the meds.
Yeah. Has it got one of those sort of fingerprints, like this, sort of hand in the boot, somebody in the boot, and those hilarious ones like that as well?
Yeah, have you seen how much those go for on eBay now? Those plastic sets of fingers. Those were the Faux Orange air fresheners. You know, remember those from the 80s?
Yes.
The traffic lights. Yeah, you're looking at £100 for a Faux Orange air freshener. Yeah. About the same for a set of plastic fingers.
Get out of here.
Unfortunately, stick-on Garfields haven't achieved the same level of collectability, which is slightly annoying because I've got 2 of those. But
can't we remake some Faux Orange air fresheners. Then
Yeah.
I mean, 100 if they're going
Should
100 quid a
be.
time, we release them slowly so it looks like
Mm.
Like the fragrance itself, release it
Yeah.
slowly over a period of
I
3
mean, it
months.
wasn't a particularly exotic fragrance, was it? We could just spray it
Mm.
with Flash or something like that, or Febreze, and people won't know any different. But
It's
Yeah.
like my dad's Cortina. It was a combination of faux orange and fag ash. There's an interesting
okay,
smell.
okay. Well, write down as future business ideas then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense, Mike. Makes sense.
Oh, very good, Tom. You've only used that twice this month in other groups.
Other
I think,
things,
so.
yes. Should we talk about our clangers of the week?
I think we should.
Yes.
So, two big cars, which actually sort of came from the same company, didn't they? They shared engines, certainly, but one was hideous, and the other one was a work of complete art. Just beautiful.
It was because the Range Rover was engineered while BMW still owned Land Rover. It was that really weird era of the car industry, wasn't there? When Ford seemed to own virtually every brand. It was hard to work out who owned who at the time and who was supplying bits and pieces. So underneath, it had all the bits from the X5, the Range Rover, and it was a big step up from the previous car as well, wasn't it?
Did you know the designer of the Range Rover, what his other big product was that he had designed previously?
Wasn't it
What
the
that?
Corby trouser press?
It was the Corby trouser press.
Jeff Upex.
Jeff
Yeah.
Upex. That was right. It was. Yeah. Yeah.
So whenever you press your trousers in your hotel room, you can think, oh yeah, I can see the Range Rover hints there.
It's quite a leap, isn't it, industrial design wise? I'm
Yeah.
sure there was something in between.
Yeah. So we can ask somebody who's, I mean, it was a big leap, wasn't it, from the P38, that Range Rover? It was a massive leap. But we have somebody here who currently owns both. In fact, I think you own two examples of a P38 Range Rover, which is the previous one. Do you still?
That's correct. Yeah. So I've got two P38s and I've got one L322, which is the Range Rover we're talking about. The P38 obviously was based on the original 1970 Range Rover chassis, albeit in a very handsome suit. And I absolutely adore P38s. I always have done. Ever since they came out, I was like, yeah, that's a really special car. And I know that you feel the same to a degree, Tom, about a P38, certainly in terms of the styling. You drive them back to back, and it's a massive difference between the two. It's very hard to compare them really because they're charming in their own ways. I mean, the two P38s I've got, one has got the BMW six-cylinder diesel in it, which was also in the Vauxhall Amiga, I believe. And it is probably the slowest vehicle you're ever going to drive, but it makes a lovely noise. It's really comfortable, and you just sit there and you just absorb the moment and trundle along. And it's a very, very happy thing to drive. The other one I've got is one of the very last P38s, which has got what they call the Thor V8 in it, which is nothing to do with superheroes, unfortunately. But it's a 4.6 litre V8. On the one I've got, it's got a Janspeed stainless steel exhaust system on it as well, and it sounds absolutely mega. And that's a sensation, an experience you will not get from the L322 that I have, which has got a BMW 3 litre diesel in it. However, you can tell when you get from one into the other. First of all, you have to open the door to get into the L322, whereas with the P38, you can probably squeeze through the panel gaps. But the interior is so much nicer, the quality is so much better, or the perceived quality is so much better. I don't know, the L322 just has a real sense of occasion about it. It still has now, the very same way in which it did when it came out. I think it was the end of 2002, wasn't it, when the first ones arrived?
Mm. Now, before anyone thinks that having three Range Rovers might be a bit excessive and that you're fabulously wealthy, Craig, am I
Yeah.
right in thinking you didn't pay more than £1,000 for any of them?
No, you're wrong, actually. I paid 1,200 quid for the diesel one, which is probably the least desirable of the three. The other two, the L322 I bought from auction for 900 quid, thinking it'd be a disaster. And actually, it turned out to be a one-owner car with 99,000 miles on the clock and a full history. So I got really lucky with that. And then the P38 V8's got a really amusing story. It's going back a couple of years ago. And I was down at Twickenham watching the England-Wales rugby match. And the day before, I sort of put this half-assed bid on British car auctions. There was this P38 blue with autobiography trim, which is the two-tone panelled leather. It's the 4.6. I thought, I wonder how much that's going to go for, because I quite fancy one of those. So I chucked on a 500 quid bid. primarily to see what the price ended at, because if you don't place a bid, you don't get to see the final price. And I'm sitting there halfway through the game, and my phone pings, and it's an email from British Car Auctions saying, "Here's your invoice."
Mhm.
So for £500 plus fees, and I had it delivered because I thought I don't really want to risk driving a £500 Range Rover home. So including delivery, it was about £805. And when it arrived, sure enough, it was broken, because what you expect for that. But it turned out that all it was the relay that operated the air suspension pump. So it was sitting down on its suspension. That had obviously put the majority of the car trade off, because they thought it'd be an expensive fault. Um, I was very lucky in that a friend of mine knows P38s pretty well. We got it to the workshop. He got his electric tester out. He goes, he says, there's no feed going to the suspension pump. So we swapped a few relays over, and suddenly the pump burst into life, and it's been fine ever since.
Now, back to the 322, because that's what we're here to talk about. I went on the launch because I think I was in charge of the diary, and I love Range Rover, so I was going to have this one. And the international launch was in Scotland, and I seem to remember that at Auto Express we were very upset because our arch rivals at Autocar had done a special supplement about the new Range Rover. So they got an exclusive first drive and all sorts of things. So we shouted and screamed at Land Rover, and as a result, they gave me the full VIP treatment. So at this castle in Scotland, I got this kind of one of the suites that had its own turrets and things, and got to sit next to the executives and things, which was quite nice. But the launch itself was quite spectacular. You flew into this Scottish RAF base, and you got off the plane and were put into Army Land Rovers and taken to this hangar. So, one of those big concrete hangars where they keep all the jets and things.
Yeah.
And inside, they'd completely panelled it out, put down flooring and everything, and they did the presentation. And then the screens went back, and there were all these Range Rovers lined up inside. And then you got in, and then there was a chat with engineers showing you how it works. And so you'd say, right, okay, so drive out. And you drove out of the hangar, and you did a left, and you did another left, and then you're facing the roof of the hangar, which is arched. And he says, right, put it into low range and put it into this setting. And then you drove over the roof of the hangar. And you're like, well, then he gets out, and then you go and do the route. And of course, it was fabulous. You went into, they had signs saying not suitable for motor vehicles, and you'd go up there and it'd say Range Rover. And the Blag was a nice coat, but my co-driver at the time, if I remember this correctly, was a chap called Ben Whitworth, who is a journalist and is still in the industry. And we went to this coffee stop, and in the middle of this clearing in a forest where we've had to go up these really steep tracks, there was a hospitality unit. Now, how they got it there, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they helicoptered it in. But in there was somebody handing out coffee and doing all this sort of hosting and things. And he was chatting to her for quite a long time. And I had to drag him away, saying, we need to go now. Anyway, I believe he ended up marrying her. So
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Isn't it?
I got a nice coat with Range Rover written on it, which I still have in the loft somewhere. But he got a wife.
Well, yeah. I mean, you went to a World Cup and came back with a wife, didn't you?
Well, that's very true. Yes, I did. Yeah.
I think you're a fine one to talk about, going on press flags and coming back with spouses. Craig, did you manage to do the same?
No. I met my wife in a kitchen at a party.
Oh, no. That's very traditional.
That's where you'll always find me. There's a song about that.
Yeah. Indeed.
Now, talking of Blags, Mike, have we got a new jingle?
Oh, yes.
It's the Blag of the week, yeah, the swag's on the seat. A branded fleece and a bottle of life so sweet. From the Alps to the Med in first class mystique. Living the dream on the Blag of the week.
It was so kind of Taylor Swift to have recorded.
Yeah, how many more pop stars have we got owing us favours to do these jingles?
We've got a lot. We've got dirt on all of them. So
excellent.
There'll be plenty more. If you give me the name, I'll try and find a jingle for it. This is like you touched on Blags just a minute there, but we've had a question from a listener, friend of the show, FOTS, Mr. James Baggett. He was with us at Auto Express for a period of the clangers era, and he's asked the question this week, and we're all going to try and answer it. He said, "What is the most extravagant launch you have ever been on?" So, Tom, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I think I win because I
think I know what you're going to say. Yeah, I think I know the launch you're on, but yeah, anyway, give it a go.
Yeah. Well, I did the Maybach launch, and at the time I was single, and when we worked at Auto Express, I didn't want to take holiday because there was, if you're single, what are you going to do? I mean, I might have painted my living room, but I didn't want to go away on my own. And you're always thinking, oh, there's a Bentley in next week, or oh, there's the new Focus and I want to drive it. And so you never really want to do it because you love the job. So it's like, I need to take some holiday. And this launch came in and I thought, I'll do this and I'll take it as holiday. And it was the Maybach. So it wasn't even a driving launch, but the launch was to go on the QE2 where they had a Maybach on the deck to New York. And then they would get a big Russian military helicopter to lift it off the deck and then put it in Wall Street where they would do an event. And then once you'd done that, you were taken to JFK and flew back Concorde. And I thought, I've got to do this.
Wow.
Now, you had to have an hour of indoctrination every day on the QE2 about the Maybach. So there's virtually nothing I can't tell you. And I've got a book full of like the leathers and the fact that you could have instead of wood or metal for the dashboard, you could have granite. I mean, imagine these days, you imagine these days of weight saving, having granite dashboard. It's literally one of the options is to have granite. So you had to do this so there's nothing I don't know about the Maybach, but it was spectacular, of course. But also there was one of the ones that I didn't do.
Yeah.
And I think somebody else did was the Bentley Continental GT launch. And rumour had it, and this made it to private eye, that everyone on the launch got was it a Rolex or an Omega watch or something? There was like a really expensive watch, and it was in private eye. That's what they gave away. Everybody who's on the launch denies it, and it's never quite been sure whether they denied it because there was this kind of pact that none of them would ever talk about it again, or it just didn't happen. So somebody will have to ask around and see if it really did happen.
Do you think they had to sign an NDA to say this happened, but it didn't happen, kind of thing?
Yeah.
There would be too many people, too many leaks. Somebody would say, wouldn't they? I would have thought.
Yeah.
I did the Ford Racing Puma launch, which I think was probably the most extravagant thing. They clearly had some budget left over for a car that wasn't exactly short of coverage. It didn't really, they had to try with the Racing Puma because everybody wanted to have a go in it, didn't they? It was San Francisco. It was Virgin upper class. You drove the cars onto the plane, to the luggage, into the hold effectively. So the cars flew out with us, and there was an extra day. We had to have a day in San Francisco, some uber swanky hotel, waiting for the cars to clear customs. And then they cleared customs, and then we drove to Laguna Seca, the race circuit, and we drove the cars around the circuit. And it was just, and it was one of those things. I think Virgin was relatively new in setting up this upper class thing. And they, as obviously a thank you or a kind of customer loyalty thing for when Ford bought the tickets, you got these incredible sort of air miles, and it was enough for like 2 business class flights anywhere in the world. And we qualified for them. So about 2 weeks later, just get something through the post, say these are your Virgin Air miles, and Karen and I went to San Francisco on those for nothing. So it was the ultimate blag, I mean, it was incredible. And I think when we got back, we'd already done a big thing on it. I think we'd already driven it at Chobham. And I think there was nothing else to add. So, Dave Johns said, probably, half page on page 15 or something like that. So I didn't have to do any copy. It was just unbelievable. Imagine doing that these days, you'd have to have 14 social videos up. You'd have to have a video review done, supplement. I mean, it was really easy money, but it was so easy to do back in those days. And it was the easiest launch I've ever been on, for sure.
No, I just did a quick Virgin upper class story. I did it once to New York and was there, and they would bring you breakfast, wouldn't they? When you didn't have to have it at a certain time, they would bring it when you wanted it,
whenever you wanted it.
So I kind of woke up in my nice Virgin pajamas And the stewardess came along and said, would you like some breakfast? So she was just there, with the menu. I said, oh, how did you know I was awake? She said, do you stop snoring, sir? Oops.
Okay.
So my stories are they're a little bit different because the one thing I always noticed was that the extravagance of the launch was indirectly related to the importance of the car. So if a manufacturer had something that was either a bit of a pup or had really low sales volumes or was desperate for coverage, they'd lay it on really thick to try and get as much positive
Standard
media
marketing.
interest as they
Yeah.
could. So the two cars that really stand out were both very indifferent. One was the Fiat Idea in 2003.
Yeah.
And the other was the original Hyundai Tucson in 2004. The Fiat one, they'd taken over the former railway depot in Florence, which is a beautiful city. And we spent the day sort of, driving around the Italian countryside. We drove back to this railway depot in Florence. And they took us out in sort of these limousine tours of the city. It was really quite pleasant. Then we got back to the hangar, and we were in groups of 4 people, and each table of 4 had their own stewardess for the evening who would go round in a sequin dress and sit on your knee and feed you
What?
cocktails. I know, it was very weird,
Different
very,
times.
very
We
strange,
should put a
very
little
different time. Yeah.
disclaimer at the start of this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Different
a
times.
very, very
Okay.
different time. So it was a bit weird. It was very Italian, but I just remember the sheer amount of money they must have spent on that. And the blag, since we were talking about blags before, they gave us all a box of cigars. Now I don't really like cigars, so I gave them to my dad's friend, who is quite a bit of a cigar expert. It was only later I found out that they were Monte Cristo cigars, and the
Oh
wooden
wow.
box alone was worth about £2,000. So I shouldn't really have
Oof.
given that away, should I? And the Hyundai Tucson one, this was obviously a brand. Obviously the Tucson now is one of the best-selling cars in the UK, but the original one was it wasn't really very good, and they kind of knew it wasn't very good and it wasn't very good looking, so they took us somewhere that nobody had been before on a press launch. It's always quite interesting. And this launch was in Latvia, but it was only just after the fall of the USSR, so it was a very, very different place then to how it is now, in that you drove through the old villages and there were the old Communist Party listening posts in the middle of the villages where they could hear what people were saying when they were chatting in the village square. So it was a fascinating trip. And I won't name names, but the PR man at the time had clearly been given free use of the company credit card to do what he liked with. So on the first evening, I think we were staying at the Hilton Hotel or something. The first evening, he took us out on the town, and he said, "You go wherever you want, do what you like, and I'll just sort of come behind and pay for it all." So PR man's job, isn't it? I suppose. So we ended up in this bar in downtown Latvia called Dictators. And obviously, they'd just been freed from a dictatorial regime, so there was a sense of liberation about the whole place. And what happened was, when you bought your drink, you were also given a baseball bat and a plaster cast of a dictator of your choice.
Okay.
And when you took your drink away from the bar, you got to smash the dictator up with the baseball bat before you went to sit back down at your pub table.
Who did you
So yeah,
choose?
Yeah.
I had 2 Stalins and a Hitler.
Good.
I'd change that now. There are plenty more people you could add to that list. I think maybe it's a concept we should introduce in the UK.
Anyway, should we talk about a launch that you did go on, Mike?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay, yes. Well, quite enough of all that, Craig. I think we should talk about the next car, which is the BMW 7 Series, and we're talking about the E65, if you're into your code names. It ran from production from 2002 to 2008, which is actually quite a short run for a car like that. It was controversial in many ways, as you may remember. It had iDrive, which was the BMW's own kind of operating system for one of the first infotainment systems. It was the first Chris Bangle-era BMW. Certainly had that big influence on the way. So it had that Bangle butt, that kind of bootleg that looked like you hadn't shut it properly, and it had this sort of very strange front end, didn't it, with those kind of gonky kind of headlights looking like eyes that were sort of staring at you. And it was. I went on the international launch of it, and I couldn't work out who was more happy. I think the design team were kind of relatively happy that iDrive was really controversial, and that was the headlines. and the people responsible for iDrive were rather hoping that people were going to spend their time moaning about the design. So it was a very strange launch. And it's weird because iDrive now is probably one of the better, less complicated systems on the market. But at the time, no one was used to infotainment systems where, you would control stuff on a screen by a scroll wheel, a wheel that was just behind the gear selector. It was completely alien. I mean, we take it for granted now. And it's the only launch I've done where the first 15 minutes of the launch, instead of just usually though on a launch, they would give you the keys, they give you a road book, because it was largely the days before navigation was good enough to be able to sort of take you on a route. You would get a road book and you would get on your way. But this time you had to sit with a German software engineer who basically explained how the car worked. And it was completely alien. And you could sense how nervous they were about it. I did hear a story afterwards that when they first showed iDrive at one of the motor shows, I imagine it would be the Munich Motor Show or Frankfurt Motor Show, where they had booths with the iDrive to show people how it worked and everything like that. And they had cameras trained on this to work out. And they found out that people were sort of engaging with it for 5 or 10 seconds, doing that, not understanding what on earth they were doing, and then walking off. So it wasn't anywhere near the engagement level, the understanding that they thought people were going to have. But they'd already committed to put it in the car, so they had to kind of stick with it. But it was very controversial, wasn't it? That system that we all kind of take for granted now.
Well, it's only just died, hasn't it? So the new iX3 doesn't have it anymore. So it was in everything else. And it is, whenever I get in the car with iDrive now, I go, oh, it makes a lot of sense. But it's one of those things that just takes a while to get used to. I think it was also the first car that had a smart key. So without a blade. So the ones that you could keep in your pocket. No, Craig's
No, absolutely
What was
not. It was the Renault Laguna.
Really?
It had
the card. The Renault Laguna had the card, didn't it?
Yeah, but you couldn't keep that in your pocket. You had to put that into a slot, didn't you?
Oh, you mean so it's like keyless start, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, no, right, okay, no, I'll give you that then. I thought you meant like a bladeless key, in which case, the Renault credit card would be the
I have another quick Renault credit card story, which was that a friend of mine in the village had a Scenic, which had one of those credit cards. So people who don't know, Renault keys, I don't know if they still are, but they're like a very thick credit card, aren't they? And you slot it into the dashboard and it does everything electronically. But these have a well-known fault that they go wrong after a while. And if you go onto Google, the way you fix them when you put it in is that you put quite a thin knife, normally a butter knife, in to the top of the key, and then that makes it work somehow. So this friend of mine, I don't know why. I don't know if it's some sort of contact or it pushes the key down or something, but you have to slot a knife or another bit of long metal like that in between the top of the key and the slot, and it will make it work. And so I told her this. I said, all you need to do is just... And she's like, oh, fine. Anyway, gearbox went, so she was scrapping it. And the bloke turns up with one of those low loaders to take it away. And she says, oh, right, okay, you just need the butter knife to make it start. And he goes, fine. And she said, but I need the butter knife back because it was my grand's and it's solid silver. And he's like, well, no, I need that because I've got to get it off the other end. So you're going to have to get your own butter knife to get the car off the other end. So he's like real grumble about it because she'd taken her butter knife back. So
imagine, Renault was very proud to boast that they had the first car that had the 5-star Euro NCAP rating. But I guess that when there's a knife sticking out the dashboard, that kind of changes that a little bit.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. So back to executive cars, though. If you think about that at the time, I mean, I remember driving it in the UK, and I have quite a vivid memory of sitting in a lay-by in Barnet after the screen had just gone blank, thinking, I've got sat-nav because I'm not sure where I'm going, and now you've crashed. Do I need to restart the car? What do I need to do? And being quite infuriated by it. Otherwise, I think it was reasonably pleasant. But I think if you look back now on these cars, the inevitable group test we would have done would be 7 Series of that era versus the S-Class of that era versus Audi A8.
Yeah, that would have been a good week to be there. Yeah,
it would have been a good week to be there, unless you had to get them out of that tiny car park we had at Auto Express. But which would you have now? I think there's quite an obvious answer because I don't want to steer you, but the S-Class of that time was a bit shoddy, wasn't it?
It was
compared to the
that was one of the early kind of money-saving budget S-Classes, wasn't it? It wasn't anywhere near as good as the original one. So that was not that. I'm discounting that straight away.
So that 7 Series, S-Class or Audi A8, which would you have? I think there's an obvious
Oh,
answer there.
I'd have a Jag.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yes, you would.
That wasn't on.
Yeah.
That wasn't on there.
You know, actually take me down memory lane here, because I remember the group test in Auto Express, because the Jag came out shortly after the alloy body XJ came out shortly after the E65. And I remember the road test team got them all together. So it was the E65 BMW, the Jag XJ, the Lexus LS400, the
Oh,
Audi
I forgot
A8,
about
and the S-Class. And I remember sitting at the motoring desk where we were, which was the neighbouring desk to the road test team, and like proper road testers, and no offence intended here, Mike, but they were all poring over their spreadsheets and trying to determine which car had won the group
Details
test.
matter. Details matter, Craig.
So
Yes.
I'd like to think there was an exact science to it anyway. And there was a big debate going on. And I'm thinking, well, you're missing something here. You know, I think they came to the conclusion that the A8 won that group test. And I'm thinking, yeah, but what you've got is 5 cars there, of which the 2 German ones are pretty soulless. The Japanese one is beautifully engineered, but again, doesn't really have much heritage behind it. So you're left, well, 2 of the German ones were soulless, I should say. You're left with the S-Class, which was actually quite pleasant, but really, really terribly made, or a Jag. I mean, the Jag, I think, came 4th in that test or something.
Yeah,
It'd be
quite right.
head and shoulders above the rest of them for me, because it would just be a car with a bit of soul. I think that's so important.
Well, it is. It is. But under all the other metrics that we had to judge things by, there wasn't a category for soul. So there was stuff like boot room,
Maybe there should be.
leg room.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe you should. I know what you're
Anyone
saying.
who buys a
Craig.
Jag knows they've got terrible boot space and not much leg room, but they're lovely.
I didn't give you that as an option though. Tom only gave you the 7 Series S-Class or A8. So those are your 3 cars. You can't choose anything else.
Which one are you having, Craig?
Yeah, come on.
Well, I suppose in a
If there's
modern
a gun to your head, you've got to choose one of them.
If I was buying one now, I'd buy the A8 because it wouldn't rust.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably be A8 as well, I think.
Yeah, I think I would too. Well, we're agreed. The 7 Series rust? I don't know. Range Rovers do, certainly.
But the interesting thing about the 7 Series, if you look at what Bangle did aside from it, he created some lovely cars. Because he designed the Alpha 145, he did the Coupe Fiat, which stunning car, and then he did the 7 Series, Bangle's Eternal Shame.
Do you think he wanted to get fired? Do you think he was really unhappy at BMW and just
Well, he then did the Z4
wait
after
till they
that.
see this? They're never going to sign this off. This is just the most hideous thing I can, and hopefully they'll give me a nice big payoff, and I can go back to Alfa and Fiat and just design some lovely things. And they said, "Yeah, this is great. We love it." And they're going to make it.
Interesting you say about the Fiat Coupe there, because I think at the time we all looked at it and thought, yes, this is great because it was so different.
Yeah.
But when I look at it now, I think that's pretty hideous. I mean, the overhangs at the front are wrong.
It's very underwheeled compared to modern stuff, isn't it? I think that's one of the big differences with cars of that era, isn't it? They're all on like 15s.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the Alpha GTV is a prettier thing, but I still like the Coupe Fiat.
Wasn't there a story that the interior from the Fiat Coupe was originally meant to be in the Alpha GTV, but they thought that they didn't want to make it so pretty.
There is a
so
story.
That it was much more, so they swapped them.
Well, Pininfarina did the entire styling of the GTV and the 916 Spider, which is, I own one of those. It's one of my favourite cars. It's
Only one?
916 Spider, the Alpha.
Only one?
No, I own 2, of course, but the red one is the pride of the fleet. And I do think that the Coupe Fiat dashboard in there, which had the body-coloured strip that went all the way across the middle of the dash, didn't it? That would look so good in there. Maybe I should make one.
Yeah.
Make what? What, make a body-coloured dash strip?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Taking the dashboard out of an Italian car isn't dangerous at all, is it? You're not going to fry the electrics or anything.
It'll probably just fall out. Now, talking about Fiats and Alpha Spiders,
yeah,
we need to think of the next issues or the next podcast's cars, don't we?
Yeah, and Tom and I were kicking this around earlier, and we thought we were going to stretch out to 2, and we ended down a bit of a rabbit hole, really, because in that kind of that early era when everyone went roadster crazy, didn't they? So
Mm.
we started off kicking around. We said the MGF and the Z3 would be a good comparison. We're going into winter, so what better cars to talk about?
Well, they're cheap.
They are cheap.
They are cheap, yeah. And we didn't know whether to sort of expand it out. Craig, you can be the judge on this. We weren't sure whether this was a clanger. It was for a brief period, but the Lotus Elise, you can buy those for next to nothing for a while, but now they're 3 times the price. So
They've gone silly money recently, haven't they? They've already leapt out of the clanger territory. I think
Right.
I do quite a bit of work for classic car auction companies these days, and you're looking at kind of 12, 13 grand for a cheaper lease now, which is
Okay.
twice what they were 3-4 years ago.
We might give an honourable mention in framing it, but yeah. So in theory, this is what we're going to go for next. In the next episode is going to be MJ. And there was other things that kind of it just grew arms and legs whenever we spoke about it. So we've got the Fiat Barchetta.
Mhm.
Don't talk about it because we're going to save it for the pod. The
Yep.
Renault Sport Spider. Don't talk about it. Going to save it for the pod.
The
So
Alpha
yeah,
Spider, surely.
the what? The Alpha.
Alpha
Yeah,
Spider,
can have that.
surely.
Yeah, this is going to be like a 2-hour episode. But yeah, okay, we're going to do small coupes next week then. So do you think we should wrap it up at this point? We seem to be over.
I think
as we always
we'll
are.
be over. Yeah. If anybody else has any suggestions for roadsters and little
Other
coupes
than
we've
James.
forgotten, then
Yeah,
yes, then let us know in our socials.
indeed. Please subscribe if you do, and write a review and let us know your thoughts. It's always welcome to hear people's comments. You can find us on Instagram at ClangersPod, and you can message us. And Craig set up our fantastic Facebook page, and we'll make sure we put pictures of Craig's latest acquisitions on there. But I think that probably wraps it up for this week, chaps.
Excellent.
Yep. If you have been listening, thank you very much, and we will see you soon.
See you next time.
See you next time.